got like rain parking and stuff like that.
Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob, Boston Marathon Edition. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're hosted by Hyland, Stop Your Cramp, Not Your Race, by Polar. Check out the Polar Vantage M and Marathon Edition, and UCAN. Perform, work out, and energize. Our next guest, Jonathan Beverly, long-time cover of the sport of running. How you doing, Jonathan?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's an honor to have you. So you are now with Competitor Running, which is now becoming PodiumRunner?
PodiumRunner.
PodiumRunner.
Yes.
And when will that launch?
Supposedly tonight. Tomorrow morning, you get up and it'll be a new site, and we'll have a lot of awesome coverage all queued up, ready to go.
Very cool. Now, you've been covering this event for how long?
Since 2000.
And what makes this event, compared to all the other events you cover, so different, so special?
Well, there's so many things, but it starts probably with the heritage, with the legacy of 123rd year running the same course. All those legends, Tarzan Brown, and Johnny Kelly, and Amby, and Billy, and all that. And then also the whole idea of a qualifying race.
Right. You mentioned in an article recently, you're talking about the whole qualifying thing and the pro thing, right? You mentioned that, what happened back in '75 when Bill Rogers came out of nowhere and all of a sudden became Boston Billy, couldn't happen anymore because you can't just come here and run. I mean, even if you qualify, you can't just come here and win the race. You have to be a pro and going off in that wave.
Right, and that's a change new this year, that they're isolating the field and separating it by 2 minutes.
Right.
So it's a little bit controversial, and emotionally it feels wrong to me for a road race. I mean, road race is about everybody lines up on the line and may the best man win, rather than selecting a few possible to win.
What's interesting, but the other side of it is if I'm a pro and I'm lining up with all the other pros and I know I'm running for prize money and somebody starts 5 minutes later but his time, because the timing chip thing is faster, he wins, that'd be hard too, not knowing who you're racing against.
Exactly, and that's why they've had to change it, because the women's start was always, since they've made a women's start, that was separated.
Right.
Last year there were some women who broke in by time, but of course they didn't cross the finish line before them. And that's the whole chip time versus gun time, and a race still is gun time. You fire the gun and the time stops when you cross the line.
And it's funny because last year, I'm sure because of the weather, because of how cold and rainy it was, a lot of your top elites were out of the race, and then people who were better in tough conditions ended up staying in the race and ended up placing higher than maybe they thought they would.
Right, which is great.
Which is what we want as journalists. Exactly. We like the people coming out of nowhere.
Right, it would have been great if they had started at the same time. But there's a logistic problem with the women's race, and they're saying instead of trying to fix that, which would be difficult, they have to start all the women together beforehand.
Right.
They're changing the men's race. Change happens, I guess, but
it does.
It doesn't feel quite right for somebody who's been around the sport for a while.
Exactly. It's funny though, because I think about it with back in the day at Ironman, it was a mass start, right? And it was everybody together, and then it's become to be a pro, you have to pay a fee and become a pro, so that everybody knows if they're in the pro wave, there's nobody who's going to come from behind who's going to beat me, because if they do, it doesn't count because they're not signed up as a pro. So maybe it's evolution.
Right.
Yeah. How long have you been in the running industry? Did you grow up as a runner yourself?
I grew up as a runner.
Where? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the coast of Maine, Bucksport, Maine.
Yeah.
Top of Penobscot, Maine. I was your quintessential 98-pound weakling as a freshman.
So I'm going to go into running and cross country and track. That's my sport.
Wow,
those are my peeps, the skinny guys. I'm with them.
You're tenacious. You find out you can keep going longer. I ended up running a marathon at age 16, Maine Coast Marathon, and just loved it ever since. I never was all that good, but immersed in the sport.
And when did you start writing about it?
I started writing in the 90s. I was actually working as the exchange director, international exchange director at NYU, but I was coaching with Bob Glover and New York Runners Club, and get immersed in the sport, so I started writing about it, and I just kept building until I quit my day job full-time for a while, and then was asked to be editor of Running Times.
Yeah, and Running Times magazine had this phenomenal reputation because at the time, Runner's World was sort of the corporate magazine, and Running Times was the people's magazine.
Exactly.
That was you want to know who was out there training and what they were doing, what their times were, and not just for the elite older folks, age group guys, but the kids. The high school kids learned so much from Running Times because they saw what other kids were doing. To me, the evolution of running is people now post all their workouts. Everybody knows what they're doing. You know, back in the day, Salazar wasn't telling people what he's doing. Right. Everybody was keeping stuff to themselves. I think that's helped in terms of people know what other people are doing, so they go, if they can do it, I can do it.
I agree. I think it's great. I think, in fact, we've been doing some of that in competitor running now. Is just we had like Dathan Ritzenheim and Jared Ward just chronicle a week, exactly what you did, why you did it. I mean, it's a little more detailed than just the Strava feed, explaining how it fits into the context. But I think that's great for people to see it. I mean, even if you can't do their exact workouts, you can extrapolate it and you can say, okay, they did 80% at easy, some of that 80-20, or what relative to their marathon pace. I think it's crucial for us to see what the top are doing, and not as fans, but as participants. They're doing what we're doing. They're just doing it at a more advanced level.
Yeah, and now they're posting video on what they're doing and how they're doing it. They're sharing. Do you find the pros are more open to that now than they used to be?
I do, absolutely. I was really surprised. Everyone I contacted was like, "Oh, I'd love to do that." And as you said, I don't think Salazar would.
No,
I don't think he still would for that matter.
No, but the reality is, it's like, bring it on. If you think you can, I'm running 120 miles a week and I'm doing 20 by a quarter on whatever pace. If you can do that, here's my workout. You can't fake that type of stuff. One of the things with American running, we went through this really low spell, right, in the 90s, 80s and 90s, where after Athletics West went away, the athletes really weren't training with each other. Right. Everybody had sort of their own little thing, and they didn't want to share information, and they were training on their own. And starting Mammoth Track Club with Meb and Ryan and Josh Cox and Dina up at Mammoth, that sort of changed things. We got Meb got a silver, Dina got a bronze, and now there's groups all over the country. How much has that helped putting Americans back in the spotlight?
I think it's pretty huge. And I think we saw that also. I mean, that's the East Africans all train in these camps and with groups, and I think it's been important. The Hanson's group has been huge.
Yes.
And so now it seems like the really sort of codified groups the USA Track and Field supported are fading away a little bit, but people are still gathering in different places.
The Northern Arizona group. You got all these different guys out there, and there's when you go out to train, some days you're not going to have it, but somebody will, and you're going to end up pushing yourself harder than maybe you thought you were on that if you were up by yourself that day. When you look back at all the performances you've witnessed over the years, what performances stick out to you in terms of just maybe it's one of those surprises that came out of nowhere, or just a performance you're like, oh my God, I didn't think they could do that?
I can't remember the year, but here at Boston, the year that they ran at 2:02.
Oh, and Ryan Hall ran 2:04:58.
Exactly.
Yeah, and finished fourth.
Exactly. But I was actually on the women's press truck that day, and I got off the women's press truck, and we looked up, and here was the man coming, and the clock still said 1:99, and he's running down Boylston Street, and it was just
like, oh my God,
it's a different world for marathoning.
Wow.
But and then speaking of Ryan Hall in the U.S. Marathon Trials in New York City.
Yes.
He just was poetry that day. I mean, it was just a feeling of, yes, here's the future of U.S. marathoning. We're watching it happen.
What was fascinating to me, if you look at Ryan from I think 2007 and 2011, he had 4 years. I think he ran 9 or 10 marathons between 2:04:58 and 2:12. Basically, you had 11 world-class performances in a 4-year span, and then he was done.
Yeah.
That to me is always sad when somebody's career is short like that. But at the same time, you never, it's like you smoke them if you got them. You don't know if you did 1 marathon a year if you would be able to last 10 years.
Right.
From all the years you've been studying this, what is the best way to do it? Or is there?
I don't think there's a best way. I think, as in other things in life, it depends on your personality and your gifts.
Right.
I think Ryan is a very passionate person.
No question.
And so that was probably right for him. Give it all. I mean, even in a race, you could see that. I mean, here at Boston, he flew down those first hills, and it's like no regrets. This
None.
Is who
Go
I
for
am,
it.
And that's how he lives his life too.
And he looked at himself as an entertainer, where a lot of guys are like, I don't want to give away energy. Well, he's high-fiving everybody going to the start line. Right. He didn't care if he blew up. He was going to go for it. And from a journalistic perspective, we love guys like that.
That was fun, yeah. But it's also fun. I mean, I guess Dathan might be the opposite of me, although he's passionate and given to it.
Yes.
He's still out there. He's here. Talked to him this morning, ready to.
He's ready, right?
To compete for it. Yeah. He said he's had the most injury-free build-up that he remembers.
So with the new launch of PodiumRunner, what will there be sort of an evolution from what you're doing with competitive running? What do you see?
I'd like to continue with the tradition that Mario and Brian Metzler and others.
Yep.
And very much like running times as far as the mission and saying that it's for the dedicated, informed, experienced runner.
Right.
It doesn't exclude anybody, but we're always going to be answering why. I think that's one of the biggest differences. That instead of 20 things you can try, it's here's 3 things you should be doing, and here's why.
They work.
They work. The experts say they work. The pros show they work. And this is so. It's always assuming a knowledge of the reader that they already know some of the things and they want to know more.
Yeah. So when you look at running in the U.S., and we years ago, our competitor group, we owned all the rock and roll marathons, and the numbers, there's more events than ever before, but with some of the events, they've dwindled a little bit. Talk a little bit about what we need to do as a group, as a running group, to keep the sport growing and keep the sport flourishing.
It's an interesting question, but I think we do need to emphasize the fact that there is more in running, that running can be everything you want it to be. I mean, I think that's what, the obstacle races and stuff that came and went sort of said, running itself is not enough. You got to add all this flash. You got to put color on me, or you got to
add some mud and obstacles and the rest of that.
And I think that's because people haven't seen that, a 5K can take 2 years and all of your focus and all of your intelligence to do right.
Right.
If you want to do it right, anything you do better becomes more enjoyable. That's the guy that wrote Flow says. So making sure that people understand that how much there is in running, how the infinite amount of challenge there is there.
So as a race director, one of the big challenges is in our endurance entertainment marketplace right now, running, triathlon, cycling, mountain biking, color run, Tough Mudder, Warrior Dash. There's a lot of options, and one of the problems for all of us is if I want to go to a Spartan race or a color run or something like that, I need a pair of shoes. That's it. I mean, at its purest form, running is still the simplest. When you travel, you need a pair of shoes. If you want to wear shorts, bring it on. But if you don't feel like wearing them, that's your problem. But really, running is in the best position to continue to grow and continue to flourish because there's less stuff involved in it. You feel that way as well?
I do. There's also a very strong community of runners. And,
yes.
And I think that we still need to be very welcoming of new people and encouraging. The divide has always sort of been between the serious, that guy they talk about and the new runner.
Right.
I don't think there's any difference once we realize that it's about progress and encouraging any time somebody does better than they did yesterday. That's great.
That's great. That's
awesome.
all that matters.
Right.
Yeah. One of the issues I think we face in both running and triathlon is people want to be an Ironman and people want to be a marathoner, right?
Yes.
And then very few coaches make a living training people for 5K and 10K or training people for Olympic distance or sprint distance triathlon. So a lot of times it's, okay, I'm training for Boston. I can't be doing these 5Ks and 10Ks because I've got to do my long run on the weekend. And sometimes the registrations dwindle in those shorter events. And from my perspective, that's the sort of the welcome mat for our sport that gets people in.
Right.
And from your guys' perspective, you're in a position to encourage people to do those shorter. Is that part of the formula that, hey, we want people to be racing because the race director is the most important link in the chain in terms of our future? I
agree wholeheartedly. In fact, this week I put up a how to train for a 5K plan. Not everybody's running Boston. Not everybody's
exactly.
Out there. And it's not it's not only a 5K. Like
right.
I said, that can be everything to train well for it. And also, as you said, it is very welcoming. The marathon is not for everybody. In fact, I don't think people should do them just because it's next year. That you should say, okay, this is important in my life. I have time for this in my life. This is
right.
It should be a choice.
When you look back at the guys from the 80s and 90s who got into running, were running routinely 80 to 100 miles a week, and a lot of them have artificial hips and artificial knees. And I've always been a proponent of run less, run forever, and to replace some of the running workouts with an indoor cycling and swimming, stretching, flexibility. Is that part of what your formula is as well? Because we want people to run forever.
Yeah, it has to be. I guess I turned 55 this week, so I understand.
Welcome to our world. There you go.
And of course, running is still first love, but it is very important to understand. I mean, all the core work you need to do, and cross training, and becoming an athlete, and appreciating that you can do it, that you get to run today.
And it's interesting because when you're working with a Dathan Ritzenheim or a Meb Keflezighi, the amount of stuff they do before they run, the amount of warm up, the amount of flexibility, the amount of strength training, and people don't realize that running is just the beginning of the conversation. It's all the stuff before and after that keep you healthy.
Absolutely, and that's one thing that I think is key, is people think that you do this stuff because you're injured. If you look at these guys, they do it all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, Meb, I think, is an hour before he starts running.
Yeah.
He does all the warm-ups, everything else. There's a reason he's had the longevity he has.
Yeah.
Not a surprise.
Yeah.
Jonathan, thank you so much for taking time.
It was certainly
Congratulations again. People just go to PodiumRunner.com.
Podium Runner.
I love it. Again, Jonathan Beverly has been a guest. Broadcast with Bob, Boston Marathon Edition. Hold on, everybody. We will be right back.